To those of you joining us today, thank you for listening into our first episode of the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, and here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town that are making big strides for the greater good. Today I'm fortunate to have with me David Crowley with Social Capital Inc. and Rebecca Mahan from the library here in Woburn. I'd just like, David, for you to introduce yourself briefly. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you here today.
Sure. Thanks, Tyler, for inviting me to join you on this inaugural show here. It's pretty exciting. So I'm a Woburn native. I grew up here in Woburn and then went to Woburn High back at the old high school before this wonderful new building that we're taping the show in.
It is gorgeous, right?
It is so wonderful, so wonderful. I was about probably 10 or 15 years too early through the old school to enjoy the facility here. So graduated from Woburn High, then like a lot of folks moved off through my 20s, lived elsewhere after college, including Kentucky for 5 years before coming back to Woburn. Like as many folks who leave Woburn after a time, all the good qualities of the community were pretty attractive, especially as we were thinking about looking for a place to buy a home and raise a child, and so that brought me back to Woburn in the late 90s.
Did you come back to join SCI immediately, or what brought you back to this neck of the woods?
So it was really more the flips, the steps were the opposite direction. So I came back to Woburn initially, and it was not too long after coming back to Woburn that I started SCI with the idea of, I was interested as I was coming back to Woburn and thinking a lot about how the community had evolved over the years since I graduated from Woburn High and stuff, and was thinking a lot about the community and thinking about ways that as I was trying to connect to the community, I started thinking about ways we in general could create ways to get people more involved in community activities here in Woburn, and that's sort of part of the process that led me to starting at SCI in 2002.
In 2002, I was just going to ask that. So things have been going well since?
Yeah, so that's about 15 years. So we started in Woburn, and our headquarters is still here in Woburn, and of course we're going to be talking a lot about the programming we do in Woburn, but part of the idea at the outset was to try to create some model programs and stuff that could be replicated in other communities, and that's sort of the path we've taken. So we currently serve about 20 communities in eastern Massachusetts, from Gloucester in the north down to Fall River, New Bedford in the south, with a lot right around here in Greater Boston.
Wow, so you guys are doing a lot of good. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And Rebecca, you're with the library. We've had the pleasure of speaking a few times. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rebecca Meehan. I started my job at the library almost a year ago. It's been really exciting. One of the draws was that this building project had kind of gotten off the ground and was actually happening, and much of the heavy lifting had been done by the town and by the people who were at the library before. And so I think I have a very privileged, I'm very privileged to be able to just come in and work with all the incredible construction folk and designers and just really be able to envision how the library is going to be, like it's actually happening. So while that's happening, we're going to be at 36 Cummings Park. That's off of I feel I should say this. It's off of Washington. It's across the parking lot from the Staples.
Yes.
Very easy to get to.
Yes, it is. I went the other day, and although it's a lot smaller of a space than what you were working with, you guys have made the most of the layout. You still have a children's room. You have all the amenities, it looks like, from what I could see.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So we were able to take a third of our most popular collections and our newest items and take them with us. So really we're functioning like a little branch library.
There was a little bit, or I say a little bit, but there was quite a bit of thought that went into what you brought over.
So much thought. I give all the credit to Andrea Bunker, the library director, who with her little ruler was making scale drawings of every single shelf and really coming up with a number for how much we could take.
So it's been a lot of work.
It's been a lot of work, but we're here, we're settled, we're ready for folks. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm not from Woburn, but legend has it that my parents had an apartment for 2 years once on Franklin.
Oh, okay. Legend has it.
I know, right? So there's my Woburn connection.
That's great. And so what do you really enjoy about working at the library? I know you said you're tackling some of those construction issues. What has made this
Yeah.
all so worth it for you?
Well, libraries are really, I found, a super gratifying place to work. It's like 1,000 tiny details, and you get to do a little bit of everything, which if you are, if you want to stay in a job for a very long time and really make a career out of it, you need that. Today you're going to do a little bit of this, and then, tomorrow you're a PR person today.
Wear many hats,
yeah,
right?
many hats,
Yeah.
many hats, which is exciting. And occasionally I get to make little videos, which just delights my inner Emersonian. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun, and working with people is pretty much the spark of the day.
Yes.
You get out and you meet the community, and you see the difference that you're making, and a lot of people haven't been to the library before, and so you want to give each person just a phenomenal experience so that one, they come back, and two, they encourage their children to come, and then their neighbors, and it's a library is just a place where we create opportunities for people, and we just need the people to come in and really take advantage of it, and they are, which is so exciting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And it gives us a shot to work with other agencies in town.
Yeah, that brings up a great point. The reason we're here today, although the library and SEI are great companies making huge strides here in Woburn, we're going to be talking a little bit about Woburn Unites today and how it came about, what the organization does in town, and at the end we're going to talk about how to get involved and how people can either volunteer their own time or their efforts into making these causes even better. Would you mind, Rebecca, just sharing what brought you to Woburn Unites and kind of a little bit about the background of the program?
Yeah, sure. So it was a very contentious election season, and when it was over, everybody was, still living their lives. But we spoke with some kids at the high school, and we were hearing, I'm afraid of my immigration status is going to lead to something. I no longer feel safe being LGBTQIA. Politics at home are really divisive. And it seemed like an opportunity for the grown-ups in the room to do something for the kids and to kind of take a lead. So we reached out to David in SCI Woburn to just kind of brainstorm, like, okay, what can we do as a community? What can we do? We're each doing our own awesome stuff. But can we be stronger and louder together? What can we do? And then,
yes, and David, you kind of taking a step back. Last year, you guys had a vigil, and I know that really sparked a lot of interest for you and kind of taking this next step. Do you mind just talking a little bit about what that was for you and the thoughts behind the new program?
Yeah, sure. So the vigil that you're mentioning, we use this term Woburn Unites sort of before we even had this collaboration going that Rebecca was starting to talk about, but that was really prompted by, as you might recall, over the summer there were a number of violent incidents in other parts of the country. Mm-hmm. One week in particular was particularly disturbing. There were in the same week there were two what seemed to be unarmed African American men shot by police officers. Then at the end of that same week, there were 5 police officers in Dallas shot and killed. And that was very, created a lot of turmoil, obviously in Dallas, but also around the country. I think everybody was pretty disturbed by that. So actually, Mayor Galvin reached out to me and sort of was interested in doing something kind of proactive in the Woburn community to bring people together to show we want to be a community that is safe for everyone, regardless of somebody's skin color or where they come from, but also a community that supports its public safety folks and police and fire and so forth. So the vigil we planned was sort of done in conjunction with the city, as well as a number of church leaders and other community leaders to bring people together to sort of send a message that Woburn wants to be a place, of peace and safety and welcoming and stuff like that. And so we use that term, Woburn Unites, to try to be an idea that sends a message of a welcoming kind of community. And I think it was when we started this bigger conversation, coming out of the little meeting Rebecca and I and a couple of our colleagues had at the library, shortly after the election, when we started getting more people into the conversation, we needed to call it something. We went back to this term, Woburn Unites, seemed to have some resonance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, I know, Rebecca, you jot down kind of the mission or the tagline
I did.
of what the committees had all come together and really saw as a vision.
Yeah.
You mind just touching on that a little bit, what your kind of end goal is or the mission moving forward for each of these events to keep in mind?
Yeah, so everything comes under this umbrella, and it's easy to become part of Woburn Unites. You basically think, I want to do this program that either engages people civically or talks about very human needs, right? So safety in housing, or how to spot false news. I know, very important.
Yes.
But just like, it just has to have a kernel of, yeah, we can all agree on this. This is a very real thing. So if you bear with me, I'll just read the statement.
No, please do.
So, Woburn Unites is a homegrown effort dedicated to making Woburn a welcoming place for all by offering programming that fosters community and understanding. So that is, if you are part of Woburn Unites and you want to bring attention to your particular program, that's what you put on your flyers, and that's what you make sure you mention. And then you get the power of all the people who are also interested in doing this cross-promoting and really getting your information out there.
Yeah, I really like that. I think the two keywords I took away were community and understanding.
Right.
You guys really seem like you're looking to be a presence, more of an education factor, help people understand what's going on, what options are out there, and for people that might not have or have a lack of options, help them understand what they can do and help their families grow. So I like that.
If I might jump in too, just
please do.
something about that understanding piece is that, I think probably a lot of us, probably we're all in the demographic, I'm guessing we're all on Facebook, might spend a little bit of time there from time to time. And I think, as Rebecca was alluding to earlier, I mean, regardless of, your political allegiance, you probably have seen some, some pretty heated posts and people getting frustrated with one another on Facebook. And, the idea of, I think, one place we can find more understanding, I think, frankly, is coming together face to face in our local community to have conversation, real conversation, as opposed to just sharing Facebook posts. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's great tool. I like Facebook too.
Lazy engagement.
But yeah, but it's clearly limited in its ability to be a place to foster understanding. And one of the underlying ideas here, I think, is. And I think part of why the early programs have gotten a good response is I think after the election, people are kind of ready to say, okay, I might have this or that feeling about things going on in the national news, but it's kind of refreshing to be able to come and connect with people that, share a place here in Woburn and kind of put some of the national stuff that might be, causing, rancor in families and workplaces and just have productive conversations that, build relationships.
Yeah, the national news is great to follow, but like you were saying, I think that local presence, this hits home for a lot of people. This is our backyard. This is events and activities that are really impacting the lives of not just the community, but the students out there, right. The younger people that are looking to be more involved in the community. So that's great. That's a great point. Now, David, I had a question for you as well. Throughout this process, what would have been some of the most memorable moments either at SEI or through the evolution of Woburn Unites? I'm sure you've seen some powerful stuff. Do you mind just sharing one or two things with us?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. It's sometimes hard to pick moments. I think one thing that I think, when we first started this first event, I mentioned the vigil that we had in the summer was, sometimes when you plan some of these events, especially on fairly short notice, we planned that event in about a week's time frame.
Oh, wow.
And you kind of, just like if you ever have a party that you really don't have a hard RSVP, you don't really know if anybody's going to show up besides the hosts. And so, at one point I was up in the mayor's office, getting some stuff ready. It was a hot summer evening, and you just think, gee, are people actually going to show up for this thing, or are we just a little crazy? And people are on summer vacations and stuff. And as the sun started dropping, the temperature, dropped a little bit. You could see people just really starting to flock and kind of fill the Woburn Common, and it was very exciting. So I think that's been the case for most of these things, and not that, I think we can have some great conversations with smaller groups, but that was just symbolically, I think, to see that in our community center, seeing people of a lot of different backgrounds coming together. We had Thursday, and the other thing that's neat, and I think it's like the way this whole Woburn Unites thing going. Like Rebecca was kind of inviting people who are interested in this to just join in. There are people who are doing these peace rocks. I don't know if you've seen them around town. They like paint rocks with messages. It's not just a Woburn thing, but it's something that's spreading throughout the area. And it's like the people doing that, they came to this vigil and said, "Oh, can we put our, do some of our rock paint, peace rock painting?" We're like, "Sure." So it's like, it reminds me a little of this story. If you've heard the story, Stone Soup. Where somebody's got a pot, and just starting with a rock, no real ingredients to make soup, and the community comes and adds the different ingredients that make a flavorful soup. And to some extent, I think that's a good metaphor for what we're doing. Like Rebecca and I, we have things to do. Rebecca's books to organize, and I have other programs to run and fundraising to do. But really kind of creating an invitation for people to come and do things that are going to bring people together in the community. We're just kind of trying to facilitate that a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that I didn't know the story of the peace rocks. Went hand in hand with the vigil, so that's great. And so Rebecca, kind of the same question. What's one of the most things that have jumped out at you? I know you've been with the library only a year, but I'm sure in that time you've had some memorable moments.
So it's every program that we do and every book that we organize, but the programs that we do, it's another opportunity to tell people the library story, and to let folks know who we actually are and the kinds of things that we can do, which is, super exciting. So one of the results of this, we had a community member come up and say that she wanted to make yarn. She wanted to yarn bomb the front fence. This was not our program, but someone who just kind of had the idea that, she could talk to us about this. So she made, David, did you see it? Was it 20 scarves?
Oh, I saw that. That was very cool.
Yeah, it's in the middle of winter, and the idea was she and I think perhaps a couple other people also, they made these beautiful scarves, and then they put them out on our big, long fence along Pleasant Street with a sign that was like, "If you're cold, please take one." And it really kind of shows what Woburn is. I've heard people say you can't have like a house fire without like 16 different benefits being organized 2 days later. Like it's a community that actually cares about each other. It's a very personal community, and just creating opportunities and getting people kind of to say, okay, you have this great idea for your community. Well, come talk to us and let's see what we can do about it. Is this something that's going to benefit folks in town? And it did. It does. It wasn't our program, but it was something that she thought that she could kind of come to us with, and just please do that. It's kind of nice. It's happy to be a part of that.
That's great. Thank you both for sharing those.
Can I do a correction in the interest of, I know Rebecca's going to talk soon about false news, and I don't want to spread any here, that the rocks were called kindness rocks,
kindness
not peace
rocks.
So
okay, thanks for the correction.
I realized I was thinking
no, it's
something
okay.
Similar terms.
All right, well, that's good correction. Still good to know. Either way, it was a great movement for a great cause. Now, so I just want to talk a little bit, kind of, again, the reason why we're here. You've had a few events so far with Woburn Unites, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 3 upcoming events this May, and we're going to finish it off by talking about how people out there listening can get involved, how they can either contribute time or financial contributions or whatever it may be, getting involved in these upcoming activities. So would either of you mind sharing what you guys have done so far in the last couple of months, and as a preface of what's to come?
Sure. So the biggest thing we have done is a series of race relation forums. And when I say we, I would say we've been one of the collaborators. I think a hallmark of all this is a lot of people working together on it. In fact, so there have been 3. One was hosted by St. John's Baptist Church around the corner. The second was here at the high school. And the third was, I did the order wrong, and the other one was at the Lutheran Church. Okay. So those events were really getting people to talk about issues of race and diversity in the community. Started with a panel discussion that included our mayor and superintendent and some community leaders and a student from high school. The second one was actually focused on getting people of different backgrounds together, sharing their stories and experiences they've had with issues of race and diversity. And the last one was, which is the one here at the high school, was kind of brainstorming ideas of practical things we can do to make the community more welcoming. So those are kind of the three biggest things we at SCI have had a kind of more direct role in helping to plan thus far.
And you saw some traction. It seemed like you were getting good feedback. The events went well.
Yeah, they all were pretty well attended, and people, we had little index cards where people give suggestions, and we had been doing them about once every 2 months. We had more than one person saying you should do these every month or every week.
It's fantastic.
And that kind of thing. And the last one we had was like brainstorming ideas of things people could do, and there are a ton of ideas. In fact, our next task is to sift through and figure out which ones we're going to prioritize, and which ones, and really at the end of the day, it'll depend on which ones people want to volunteer to help make happen.
That's the key thing. You got to have the bodies there to be able to put these great events together.
Right.
And so wonderful. And I'm sure you guys have kind of had an intro to what's to come as well. What kind of events have you been doing?
Yeah, sure. So we were in this podcast discussion group. First, I have an almost 6-year-old, and trying to make it through a book is almost impossible. But I do have a commute, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'd listen to this podcast about compassion. So we had a TED Talk podcast discussion group, and it basically looked at compassion from a couple different angles: biological, psychological, linguistic, pretty much everything. And the idea was, okay, so like, what is it? And let's look at it, and then can we get better at it? And I think this was the first program in response to the election, which was just to kind of bring people together and really take a breath and talk about how we can actually engage with each other in a more thoughtful manner. So that was the first one we did, and it drew a really kind of interesting crowd, folks I'd never met before in town of different demographics. Yeah, it was really good, and most people were looking for a place to start. This was a place to start. So our next program is going to be on May 11th at 7 p.m. It's actually taking place at the high school. Melissa Zimdars is coming, Professor Melissa Zimdars is coming to talk about false news. So she there it is. She gained national acclaim for compiling this list of false and misleading news sources. She was kind of all over the place, the Times, the Washington Post, etc. So she's going to come and chat with us, show us how to navigate our social media safely, and then there's going to be a pretty dynamic Q&A session, so we're excited about that. And then something that I've been working on, and boy oh boy, moving a library sure takes it out of you, but and I know SCI has been pretty excited about this idea too, right? The human library.
Oh yes, that sounds.
Oh yeah, that sounded
cool
fantastic.
Yeah.
You mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So you go to a library, you check out a book, you read the book, you learn a thing. The human library is kind of the same idea. You take people of very diverse backgrounds, and that can be diversity in the sense of what it's like to be a single parent, what it's like to be on the autism spectrum, what it's like to be out of work long term, or have a career where you can support yourself in the arts. Like, that's pretty exciting. And pretty much everything else you could imagine as far as diversity goes. But the idea is those people commit to answering 50 or so pre-scripted questions. You hold a mixer, and folks can go up and just ask the questions of someone that they may not have run into in their own social circle. So the human library.
That's a neat idea.
I know.
So where are you in the process so far? Is it the brainstorming phase so far? Or?
I'm looking for human books.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested in sharing their story, everyone has a story. You can give us a call at the library. Or you can email me at rmeehan@minlib.net. Or just call the library, 781-933-0148, and just reach out, get in touch, because we can't have the human library without the books. Yes, exactly.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I know we have a couple of other events, one following the 11th on the 12th. David, you mind just sharing a couple of the events that you're very involved in this May?
Sure. So the one on the 12th is a film screening. The film is called Traces of the Trade. It's a documentary that's based on a family that discovered fairly recently that they had some family wealth that had actually been inherited by being in the slave trade. They actually thought the money was just from being in the shipping industry, and then they realized what that really meant in New England in the 1700s and so forth. So that was the movie is about the family coming to terms with that and what they kind of moral obligation they felt they had, and they actually retrace, if you remember from history class, the old triangle trade route. So they go to Africa and Cuba, as well as the starting point here in New England, and then they will lead a discussion. The co-facilitators, actually one is a friend of mine from many years back, Dane Perry, and his wife go all over the country co-facilitating discussions prompted by the book about race and healing and how we sort of move forward together as a country and stuff, and get people talking. And the film is sort of prompts that. One of the things that's pretty cool about it is I mentioned the index cards we collected at one of our events with ideas. A number of people suggested the idea of doing film screenings on topic, interesting topics that then prompt discussion. And we actually had one already planned, so we were able to kind of quickly run this
Fill
out
the need
there
right
and
there,
show that we're responsive, but we're actually anticipating that. So that's one thing. And then the second thing that's coming up on May 21st is a big event called, let me go back. That event is at the Lutheran Church from 6 to 9 p.m. on May 12th. So it is free, and there'll be a light supper to start, but we do ask for people to RSVP in order to make sure we have enough food for people.
Okay.
So then the second one is a great annual event that sort of has been going on before. We have this Woburn Unites thing called World Fest, and that is an annual celebration of cultural diversity that for many years was held on the front lawn of the Woburn Library. But of course, with the library construction process, we had to find a new spot. But we didn't move very far. We're now going to be at Library Field. That event is from 1 to 5. That's a Sunday. There are performances, a lot of food from different cultural backgrounds. Actually, I think this could be, I don't want to over-promise, but I do think there might be more food and variety of food than we've had in past years. So that you might want to skip lunch and come and really taste some good food. And then there are also a lot of kids activities. One activity we do every year that's pretty fun is kids can go around, and there's a little passport. If they get their passport stamped at different kids activities, they get a little prize at the end. So there's a nice family event that definitely celebrates the different cultures that we find in the Woburn area.
Okay, so that's a full month for you guys right now. What's to come? What's for the future of Woburn Unites? Where do you see yourselves taking this?
Well, we're pretty excited. The False News program is the first time we brought the high school in, which is exciting. So we're bringing in another partner for one of our programs, and I hope that we just kind of continue expanding. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, I'm thinking back, I have the visual of all these ideas on a big piece of flip chart paper that's sitting in our office, and I know there's a lot of ideas, and I think, for me, I think part of the next phase is figuring out how it's not just like a couple organizations planning things, but how can we support a group of people that, that want to move forward and plan things, and us doing a little facilitation, but really enabling people to put stuff together that's going to be interesting and continue furthering the goals that we share.
I think the best way to get involved is just to show up. Come to a program, stay, meet your neighbors, talk to the folks who are organizing it, share your ideas, and just like a sincere conversation, it's really nice. This is the opportunity for it,
Okay, so for everyone listening out there and people like myself, the first step is show up on May 11th or show up on May 12th and get involved, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So just a quick summary. We have False News. It's going to be located at the high school.
Yes.
7 p.m., May 11th.
Correct.
Am I missing anything?
And learn how to spot it. No, you're not missing anything. You're perfect.
Right.
You're perfect. You got it.
Okay. And so then on the 12th, we have Traces of the Trade.
Yep.
We're going to have a great presentation by the couple themselves. That's going to be at the Lutheran Church, 6 to 9 p.m.
Yes, if people want to RSVP, get more info on this or any of these other events we're involved with, sciwoburn.org would be a good website to visit.
Okay. Good to know.
And they can also, one thing we didn't say is if people are hashtag savvy on social media, if they look for hashtag Woburn Unites, they can also find tweets or Instagram posts about these events.
Okay.
We don't have this isn't an organization, this is just kind of a network thing, so there isn't a separate website
Correct.
for
Yep.
it, but people try to use that hashtag Woburn Unites on social media.
Okay, that's good to know. And following up that event, towards the end of the month, we have World Fest. I looked at the flyer a couple days back prior, and it looks like it's going to be a very popular and fun event for families and kids of all ages.
Yes, definitely. So they just show up sometime. It's, we will, at that same sciwoburn.org, we'll post an idea like the performance schedule, but the food will be there all day unless people are really hungry. If you're really hungry, you might want to get there earlier and be on the safe side.
And this is a show up at will, no RSVP needed?
RSVP needed. It's kind of big, open, free.
Okay, and all of these events are free to the community and people involved? Yeah. Wonderful. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what days to show up and get out there and get involved.
Great.
Thank you both so much for sharing your story and your company's values and what you guys are trying to get accomplished.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming in today. I really do.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So thank you for listening to today's first episode of Woburn Spotlight. Thank you to my co-hosts today, David Crowley with Social Capital Inc. and Rebecca Mann from the Woburn Public Library. Just remember, we only have one life to live. Let's all do our part. I'm your host, Tyler Gates. Join us next time for another episode of the Woburn Spotlight.